I'm Zach Snyder.
And I'm Aden Matthews.
And welcome back to another YouTube podcast. The one-stop shop for anything and everything related to YouTube.
The show where we've done 80 episodes, and yet Zach still can't get the intro right. What's up with that? How much longer will we have to wait?
That's the first time in a while I've messed it up. We've gone months in between recordings, and I'll just have it. But
it's true.
For some reason, we've recorded 5 of these in the last 2 weeks, and I fucked it up today.
I think I did on the last episode where I mixed up anything and everything. Because it was supposed to, I think I said it in the wrong order last time. But
okay.
Glad you did a worse version of it. Because now my
someone
error
gets fired for that
blunder. Yeah. 100%. But today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about what we should have done with that intro, and that was editing. Should have edited it together. More specifically, me and Zach have picked a video from our channels that are of recent upload, and we're going to talk about the editing in these videos and hopefully provide some general use tips, give you a little bit of behind the scenes look at our process and how we've evolved as editors, all in one action-packed, thrilling episode of another YouTube podcast.
I'm hyped for how much you have hyped this episode up.
Yeah.
For it to just be mid. It's going to be exciting.
Well, the that book, The Secret, right? Is if you imagine it and picture it and you think like it's going to be real, then it'll be real. So the more I keep hyping it, the more I'm planting the image in your mind that this is going to be a baller episode, and then you'll believe it.
Okay.
And then it'll be good
enough.
suddenly or something. I don't know. I don't think that's real. I don't think The Secret is a real thing. But
I don't know.
Fuck it, reverse psychology.
Yeah. I don't even know what The Secret is. Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Something's coming in.
Oh.
I think I just found out what The Secret is.
You found out the secret? Tell us.
Apparently the secret is that if you're just getting started on YouTube and you have a little bit of money to throw around, you can spend $99 to get the YouTube starter kit.
Wow. Truly enlightening. I can't believe that was the secret the whole time. And we just didn't know.
Anyways, YouTube starter kit, $1,500 of value. You know the vibe. Dozens of downloads from templates for advanced YouTube thumbnails, shadow artwork, in cards, lower thirds, royalty-free background music, fonts, more. Pay one price, unlimited access. You've been here. We know this. So why you ain't bought it yet?
Come on.
It's in the description. It's in the show notes. And if you buy it, you'll be supporting another YouTube podcast too.
But of course, if you don't have $100 and you still want to support this podcast, you can become a supporter on Anchor at anchor.fm/another-YouTube-podcast. You can decide to support us financially at $1, $5, or $10 a month, and we'll read your name on the podcast. This will also be helpful when Zach, stroke comes halfway through this episode and I have to pay for the medical bills. So...
yeah.
That'll help
paying for him
as well. Yeah, Zach ain't paying for it. I can't afford that shit.
Nah.
So, you know how it is. Thank you to our sponsor, Anchor and Awesome Creator Academy. The secret of a lifetime. We're just out here revealing it in a random episode of the podcast. It's insane.
Yeah. This is episode 80, bro.
It is. Sure is.
How crazy is that?
Done 80
episodes. Man, what a waste of my fucking... Anyways, so we're going to be talking about editing today.
Yes.
Which is, like you said, what I should have done with that intro, but that's too much work. But we do spend a lot of time editing our own videos.
Right.
Thankfully. So you picked out a video of yours.
Yes.
Called Echo the Dolphin, Golden Axe 3, and Rice Star. 30 for 30.
Maybe I should have edited the title, if you know what I'm saying. What the...
I love that.
Whew.
That's just 3 video games. Who fucking cares?
Oh boy.
But kind of a Christmas special as well. It came out December 19th.
True.
And then I chose a video 19 minutes long. I chose a video called I Watched Netflix's Holiday 3 Times. Here's Why, Your Everyday Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
This is my Christmas special where I talk about a Christmas movie for 12 minutes.
Now, granted, this is the title on the video, but really the full title is I Watched Netflix's Holiday 3 Times. Here's Why, a modern deconstruction of the rom-com genre and how a forgettable teen Nick star and Chris Hemsworth look-alike made this Holiday Scrooge, and I can't even... Holiday Scrooge... What is that other word? It got blocked out by the in logo. Up a bit and root for a make-believe movie relationship.
Yeah, you got it. Something like that. I don't know what the... I think it's make this Holiday Scrooge cheer up a bit.
Oh.
For this make-believe...
That makes sense.
Movie relationship. Yeah.
There's a lot of words that end in R that it could have been. So, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's our videos. You want to tell them the kind of inspiration behind this?
Yeah, sure. So I've talked to Zach before that I'd just be, going on YouTube and finding random ass channels sometimes and getting addicted for a month. And this month's addiction is a guy by the name of Hiller Smith. He's like, oh, another white dude with glasses. What is this, Scott the Waz? And that's what I thought at first. But actually...
Nostalgia critic.
Doug Walker? But no, it's actually Logan Paul's editor. You're like, what? Logan Paul's editor has a channel? And he does. And despite what that may sound like as a YouTube channel, it's actually really good. It's, there's a couple of Logan-specific videos on there, and you're free to skip them. But the majority of the channel is all about editing. He picks YouTube videos from popular creators and breaks down the techniques that make these videos popular and good and how he could improve on them. He's also talked about movie trailers, behind his own process type shit. And that kind of inspired me because I'm like, hey, we've done like a general purpose editing discussion. We've talked about software, basic cuts, basic ideas, but that doesn't really give you an idea of the behind the scenes process that me and Zach go on video to video and some of the more advanced stuff that we use to make our videos entertaining and interesting. So I'm like, we should do this like analysis shit, but for our own content. And so that's what we did. We watched both of these videos that Zach mentioned, and we also brought up a Google Doc full of notes, critiques, questions. We're going to go through them, talk about the videos, and hopefully it's interesting to listen to. Maybe you learned something new. That's what I'm hoping.
Hell yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
That'll be epic.
I think we should start with your video, since that's how we watched them. We watched the holiday.
That's true. We did watch mine first. Cool. So I guess like the general vibe of this video is I watched a bad rom-com 3 times.
Yes. Not intentionally at first.
Not intentionally at first. I watched it for the first time. I was like, this is kind of enjoyable as a rom-com. It's kind of funny. Let me get the boys to watch it with me. And then everybody but Aden watched it with me, and they hated it. And then I was like, yo, Aden, I'm trying to watch this a 3rd time because I think it'd be funny. You want to watch it with me? And then we watched it together.
And I hated it.
Yeah, and you hated it, which is fair. And then I made a video about it. It's mostly a joking video. I'm making fun of the movie. Not much reason why I wouldn't be making fun of it. But there's also like a kind of sarcastic bit to it where I'm calling it a masterpiece. And then the end of the video goes off the rails. We can talk about that.
We'll get to that.
But it's mostly like your typical like video essay. Guy watched a movie and it's funny bad, so let me talk about it.
If you've watched typical yins like Loquisha and Snowmance, you get kind of a general idea of what the holiday version of that would be.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's also a later yin episode, the last one to come out. So it is, in my opinion, better than those other two just because of the editing techniques and how far you've come. We even see that right at the beginning of the video with the new yin intro and logo, which is snazzy and fresh and shit. I know you've thought about like removing it or changing up the intro and shit, but of all the different versions of it, this one's been my favorite for sure.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I really like it. I have talked about removing it, and I'm still trying to figure out like if that's the best play. I actually haven't come to a decision yet, just because been so long since I put out a video at this point. It's been like 5 months. Yeah, I'm still really happy with how the intro looks. I like the new "Are you an everyday nerd?" Hit that subscribe button and notification bell little thing. A lot of that is kind of effects and stuff I found on a website called Storyblocks.
Oh shit!
Which it's a subscription service. I have access to it because of clients, but you can find like different After Effects templates, animated backgrounds, stock footage, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of found a couple of things that I really liked, and then like mixed it with some other stuff so that it could be more yin specific. Mm-hmm. But I think it looked fresh, so I'm pretty happy with it.
I think it does too. I got a couple of notes on this.
Go for it. I'm curious to hear what you got to say.
And a lot of these are just like 4 words, right? So I'm gonna have to elaborate on a lot of these. But the first thing I wrote down, can you guess? What do you think? What do you think was the first thing to catch Aden off guard here?
Dude, I don't know. This beginning bit is just me in a Wu-Tang Clan shirt, holding up a stuffed Banana, which is an anime character, and saying "Merry Christmas." So I really don't know. I don't know.
You got it. You got it though. Yeah. You nailed it. I wrote down epic opening banana zoom.
Hell yeah!
Because you zoom in on banana while you say that, and it happens like in 3 seconds, and then we were just off to the intro. Yeah. We're off to the races.
Banana says, "Help me."
Yeah.
Old text that says "Help me" because he's being.
I didn't catch that.
Guess.
Oh no! Yeah. I missed that shit.
It's in black text. It probably should have been a little bit better to read now that I'm looking at it. It's just kind of like, yo, Banana being held against his will, I guess.
Oh, right? Oh, that's kind of a darker tone. I didn't even notice that.
It's really funny. Actually, I need to save this as a little macro image, a little meme, because it is really funny.
let me see this shit. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Help that poor boy. What's he doing?
This video specifically, I got these lights, these like LED lights to go on the shelf, and the last 2 videos use it, and I've actually removed them since because I really don't like how they look, and I don't think it helps anything. I don't know. The lighting could be worse here for sure.
It's definitely
as you
a
go
bit
on in the video,
darker.
You kind of get used to it, but yeah, it's a little bit darker and a little strange.
Yeah. That's not specific to editing. That's just Zach's 18 millionth problem with lighting, part 2.
Yeah. It just continues.
Eventually, he'll get it. Guys. Don't stress.
The first thing that I wrote down is just
ahead.
kind of like a technique that I use in all of my videos and client stuff. Is I use a lot of zoom ins and close ups to kind of keep visual interest. Mm-hmm. That is kind of my style, and it's like. I didn't create it. A lot of people do it, but like I use it extensively. I don't like doing jump cuts. So if there is going to be like a jump cut needed, then you're going to see like a 10%, 20% zoom, or close up shot there. And then sometimes when I'm trying to kind of put emphasis on a point that I'm making, then I'll start zooming in from the beginning of that point to the end of that point. And then again, to kind of keep interest, if I'm not going to show any kind of footage of a movie or a game or something like that.
Yeah, like I wrote down almost every shot of Zach on camera had a zoom in at least. Most of them did.
Yeah.
There's very little of like the static shot of you talking. It was either zoom ins or comedic gags or just cutting straight to footage a lot of the time. Which is good.
Right.
Because I think it keeps the interest a lot of the time. It's not something I do often, but I appreciate its value, especially in comedic gags. I used to do it a lot on Questions on the Couch, where I would just zoom in on my face when something stupid happens or whatever. Being able to make fun of yourself like that with zoom ins is a powerful tool to unlock, especially if you're not naturally funny. Being able to add the humor into the edit by zooming in on shit. that's like out of ordinary and wrong is a good way to like add a little bit of humor to a video.
I agree. One of the differences between my content and yours, and it's not a bad thing, I think it's what makes, my videos strong and what makes your videos strong, is that I'm very like quick pace. I like to try to keep the pacing quicker and try to get the video as short as possible, so I'm not overstaying my welcome. But then you kind of go on the other side of things, to where you have a lot more of a like breathing room.
Yes.
In your pacing. There are static shots, there are like intros to games, and we'll get into that when we get to your video. But I think it's cool on both ends, because we make different content. We talk about our content so much to each other, and yet our style is still different. And I find that really
drastically different, even though it's like media review
drastically
shit. That's
different.
like all it is.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. That's a good distinction between the two of us for sure.
And I think we've like taken from each other in those respects too.
100%.
Sometimes I try to like get more of the vibe that you have, and then on some parts you're trying to get some of the more quick pace stuff from me, and that's kind of cool.
I've talked about before on the podcast of trying to cut down videos a lot just because of yin specific things. So a lot of the later Back to the Video Games and even 30 for 30s, like the whole point of trying to hit under 20 minutes was partially inspired by you having, the yins have so much like of a quick pace and shit. And sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. But it's a good thing to follow. It's a good rule to follow. Of keeping visual interest is something I talk about a lot. And something I really liked in terms of visual interest is also in the beginning after the intro, where you're talking about how much you hate Christmas. And it's like, oh, whatever. We've seen like the bah humbug Scrooge type shit. And it's not so much that the things you were saying wasn't funny, because it was. But I really like the idea of cutting to footage of like really horseshit Christmas things while you're talking about how bad Christmas is. So he's like, I don't like Christmas movies. Here's a shot of Lumpy. I don't like the music. Here's the animated grandma got ran over by a reindeer scene. And it's like, here's Taco Bell. And then he just shows an actual picture of Taco Bell. But it changes things up. So I really like that the visuals in that shot made what you were saying funnier than they probably should have been, which was a really good use of like a humor type shit. I love that bit.
Yeah, I like doing that a lot, because I think there's only so much you can do with like written comedy, like scripting out the comedy and making it funny that way. I think what makes videos so special is that there's like another level of creativity on what you can show on the screen to make it funnier.
That joke doesn't land in a podcast.
Yeah.
No,
it doesn't.
Doesn't land in a written tweet. You have to have like both the visual and the audio to make that work. So that was really cool.
I agree. Epic. I guess like the other like big technique that I've kind of used before, and I've seen you use it in your video as well, which is cool. But when I've got like footage from a movie and I'm going to use the audio from that movie, I want to highlight a scene or something. Usually before I play that audio, I stretch the footage over what I'm talking about so that it naturally goes into that, instead of just like a hard cut to another scene in the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. The idea that Hiller Smith talks about is you want to try to avoid these sort of hard cut scenarios where either the eye line changes or what's happening on the screen is vastly different. And what you'll find a lot of the time is you can make that easier on yourself if one part cuts before the other. So in this case, we see the visual, but the audio from the previous shot is talking over it, or the scene will be playing with music, and then we'll see the audio before we cut back to the camera. Whereas if you were to cut both the audio and the visual at the same time, not to say that can't work, and sometimes it's good for comedic effect, but when you cut both at the same time, it's more drastic and more off-putting. So by like breaking that shit up and naturally flowing from one to the other is a great technique, and I've used it a bunch too.
Yeah. I mean that's exactly on the money right there. I I want to keep that visual interest going, but I don't want to mess up the pacing. And that's not like, it's not easy. In fact, before we recorded this episode, I was telling you, like, it's hard for me to kind of talk about what I do in editing because a lot of it is so much intuitiveness, right? It's just my intuition on whether or not this feels right. So this is kind of an exercise for me on trying to figure out how the hell to talk about my own content. But yeah, like, I want it to be visually interesting, but I want the pacing to still be strong, and that's one of the things that I do.
Another thing you did that I noticed a lot too was the movie will cut every time there's a breath in your dialogue. So you'll be talking, and then there'll be a little pause, and then the movie will cut to a different scene, and then you'll talk again. And it wasn't necessarily like I've seen Gerard do, where it's like every sentence it cuts, and that's a good approach too. But this was interesting in the fact that, like, there were 3 points in that sentence, and after each point where you breathe a little bit, the movie is already cut to the next scene relating to that next point. Or it might not even relate to a point at all. It's just simply a different scene to keep your eyes visually interested after a while.
Yeah.
And that's something you do that I envy a lot, because a lot of the time when I'm editing, I'll have like one piece of gameplay for like 30 seconds or 20 seconds, and that's fine. But if the 30-second increment like isn't visually interesting, or if it gets boring after a while, well, then you got to do a little bit more work after the fact, where you're like cutting on every little breath for parts of this video.
Yeah, I started doing this, I think, with, like, it was right before Yin, when I did those, like, Walking Dead videos and, like, the Pokemon waifu videos. I started doing this a lot, but, like, every single phrase almost, like you said, it's not necessarily every sentence, it's, like, every single point that I might have, I switched to another scene, because I just wanted to have that fast pace to it. And, you know, I got a lot of that from, like, watching fucking Game Theory.
Yeah.
And then, like, similar type of videos that have, like, a big emphasis on the editing. That was kind of where I've gotten that. And, like, I can't go back to anything else, because that's what feels natural to me.
So I got to ask then, from that approach, given that you cut so often, whether it's in a movie, whether you're choosing to zoom in, whether it's a cutaway gag, and we'll get to those. There's all these different cuts and shit. Are you ever just like in the timeline and you're like, I feel like I should cut here, but I don't know to what? Like what do you do when you've reached that point of like, I don't know what the fuck to cut to in this specific instance? Or is there always like a rule? Like if it's movie, it has to go to movie. If I say something funny, it has to be a gag, or are you just whatever comes naturally?
So one of the things that I've done more recently, season 2 based, so like the last 30 or so videos, is when I'm recording, instead of trying to make it look like I'm looking at the camera the entire time, I usually have like paragraphs or sentences that I know I'm going to have stuff over it. And so like I'm just looking directly at the script when I'm recording that. So usually it's, if I'm looking at the camera, it needs to be focused on me unless I have something better that can go there. And then if I'm not looking at the camera, or even like if I mess up and it doesn't look like I'm looking at the camera good enough, then I'm putting something on top of it.
Usually the movie or the media you're referring to?
Yeah, the movie or the game or whatever it is.
So
and it's really easy with movies. Yeah, okay. Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of things I do in the script. It's really easy with movies because you usually only have about 2 hours of footage to go through, and you know, if I've written the script well enough, then I know my talking points, and as I get to that part in the timeline, I can just go pick out that clip from the movie and just put it on there. It's a lot harder with games because you got sometimes 20-30 hours of footage that you got to go through. Same thing with TV shows. It's very difficult. Music is another one where it's like, how do you keep that visual interest if you don't have anything to show
visually? Yeah. That's hard.
But yeah, it's a lot more difficult. I think that's why, like, if I was ever going to niche your everyday nerd down even further, it would just be a movie channel because it's so easy to edit those kind of videos. But obviously I don't want to do that because I want to talk about other things.
I get you.
Yeah.
What's next up on your list there?
So, the next thing I have is sound design.
Ooh, I didn't
which
mention
is
this.
something that I'm trying to get better about. I do a lot of work on the Pat Flynn Pokemon videos with sound editing and stuff, adding like swooshes and booms and different sound effects there. This one doesn't have too much of it, but every single time I make I mention the word brilliant, I'm like calling this movie brilliant. I have a little counter and a ding, right?
You drop a thing into a box and you hear a thud type shit.
Right, yeah. Right. Things that kind of help enhance the video just a little bit more. And it's hard to do that often because it's something that I don't think about too much, but when I do think about it, I think it enhances the video.
100%. I have a whole folder of like funny sound effects that are mainly just used for meme shit. Which that's helpful a lot of the time. But even like taking it a step further of like if I'm doing a thing, being able to hear that thing, like in the crossover, for example, since we're not talking about my video specifically, but in the crossover, that opening where like I shut the truck or whatever, you get the original audio like that I recorded there, but there's music on top of it, so it masks out a lot of just the air and like not good sounding parts of that recording because it was from far away.
Yeah.
But if I can keep any bits of that original recording for like me stepping on a twig or shutting a door or that type of shit and it sounds okay, I'll cut it out and just use it for that.
Oh, definitely. I do it, like I said, a lot in like client stuff. I'm using it a lot. It's a little bit different in my videos because again, it's like, when's the best place to do it? A lot of people will have those swoosh sound effects like throughout the entire video. And at some point, I feel like that gets annoying. So I try not to overdo it in client stuff, which is probably why I don't do it much in my videos. But it's something that I want to do more of. Have like a good sound design throughout the whole thing.
You need to use that Johnny Test whip sound effect for every little action.
There we go.
And scene transition.
The Wilhelm scream. Just use the Wilhelm scream throughout the whole video.
Yeah, that'd be epic. I'd fuck with that. The next thing I wrote on here, and this is something that I love about Yins and like what elevates certain episodes for me, is when you like have a story, but then you're like, oh shit, I didn't film when that actually happened. So then you just go make it up, right? A good example of this is like in the Minecraft video when you're talking about an event that happened and you didn't record it at the time. It's like, oh, okay, I could just not show it. But Zach will go out of his way to get Jay to recreate the incident that happened in Minecraft and film the whole thing. And you do a similar thing in this video where it's like, I remember talking to the bros about wanting to go watch Holiday, and it's all four of us there, and we maybe filmed like 2 or 3 minutes of it. But all Zach uses is like a close-up shot of the homies' faces and Jay saying, fuck you, and we're moving on. And that's it. That's all he took out of it. And that's really funny. Yeah. It's really good. But it's that storytelling element that really gets me invested in some Yins where it's like, okay, not only are you telling a story, you're showing how it went down, obviously exaggerated, and for comedic effect. Yeah. But I love shit like that. So the fuck you bit with like everybody in the call was really good.
Yeah. I'd love to do more storytelling stuff. I think the best YouTube videos have, the whole story arc, right? The whole storytelling thing is like one of the biggest things that like big YouTubers will talk about. You're like, yeah, I get it, but I'm making a video about a damn rom-com. Like, how can I do that? So even just a little bit, I think helps a lot.
Some videos, you just don't have an opportunity to do it. It's just like it doesn't happen, or you have to force it in weirdly.
Right.
For like a crossover or an event. But still.
I don't want to be the guy that has like a 3-minute skit at the beginning of every video either. No, that shit's annoying. And it's usually not funny. A lot of people that do that, I don't mess with it. So. Yeah. Our favorite here on the podcast, Doug Walker.
The man, the myth, the legend. That's all my nice
I have
things.
something that
I have I have some negative nitpicky shit, but if you have more positive shit, go
cool.
ahead.
No, I was about to say I have like a really bad thing that I need to mention.
Yeah, you go. Maybe we have the same thing.
So at the end of this video,
Mm-hmm.
I revealed that the Zach in front of the camera talking positive thoughts about this movie is in fact a different version of myself from a different parallel world, kind of led through from the crossover, and I have like my personal self come in and I'm like, yo, what you doing here, bro? Why you here? And I use what's called ADR.
Yep.
Which is called automated dialogue replacement.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it stands for. And basically, if you record a video and you're really far away from the mic, like I was, the original audio usually either barely exists or is not good. So I had to re-record that audio.
You sure did
and
try.
I recorded it from my chair, like I recorded the rest of the video. And when you look at that audio with the video,
mm-hmm.
it's very clear that it was done in post.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
Yeah. I wrote ADR was weird near the end.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's very bad. I've done that in the past with another video because the audio was bad. I did it for the whole video and it's clearly like weird and out of place. So I just wrote down ADR is bad. LOL. Never do that if you can avoid it.
I think what would have helped in that shot specifically, and this is coming from someone who's had himself in the video as another character before, is if the audio's not there or if I have to re-record it, fine. But I cut to other me who's reacting, so you don't see the guy talking on screen. So right, like if you had a shot of fake interdimensional Zach reacting and being like, what? Then we don't have to physically see. Or if there's parts of the ADR that really work for like a sentence or two, show that and then cut away to fake Zach. It takes a little bit more time to do it, but it can't be as much effort as this ADR was. So
nah, I should have just re-recorded it.
Yeah.
That's really what I had to do. But yeah. It's unfortunate. It happens.
It's right toward the end, and it doesn't like bring the video down or whatever. But
yeah, it's very amateurish though. When you watch it, you're like, damn. The video is pretty solid for most of it, and then this part, what are you doing? Yeah.
I also, maybe this is just an Aden thing. I don't know.
Go for it.
While the box edit did have good sound design, I didn't think it really like fit in the moment. It was a very weird visual for me, I guess.
That's fair.
The box edit. Because you're talking about Schrodinger's Frick and you're talking like one thing censored and it's like partially censored when you throw it in the box and then there's another one in there and I'm like, somewhere along the way, it got a little confusing for me. But it doesn't last
That's
long.
fair. Yeah. For context, there's a scene in this movie where these two main characters may have had sex, but they don't know for sure. So I call it Schrodinger's Frick.
Very funny.
Referencing Schrodinger's cat, where there's like a dead cat and a live cat in a box, but you don't know which one until you open it. So I put on the screen a image of a box, and then I drop in the movie poster, and one of them is censored and the other is not. But it is I like this the first time we did it. Every time I look back at it, I'm just like, there might have been a better way to
communicate it. Yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah,
but something about the way you did it, I was like, this is a little weird. It's not off-putting and not bad, but a little weird.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the final thing to me, and I've noticed you've done this on a couple of Ians sometimes, is you'll have this like through line, right? In this case, Holiday, it's this modern deconstruction of the rom-com genre or whatever. And sure, you do touch on it like 2 or 3 times. But I don't know, maybe like for me, I didn't feel like by the end of the video it had convinced me of that. And maybe that's not the point. Maybe it's like, it's this fucking Zach's a weirdo. And that's funny. And he keeps bringing it up and it's a funny bit.
Yeah.
But you've done that before with the Deadpool video where you like, this is a perfect rom-com, and it's mostly just a review of Deadpool with like 1 or 2 bits about the actual like thesis of it type shit. So I thought that message of the video kind of got a little bit lost in some of the other shit going on.
It's the Deadpool video was just badly written. Much like a lot of Deadpool comics. So, you know,
it's accurate to the source material, guys. It was intentional.
To the source material. But this video it gets a little muddled because the ending shows that you were watching the wrong Zach the whole time. Mm-hmm. So the whole major bit is that I was saying this movie is a brilliant deconstruction of the rom-com genre, but in actuality, it's just a bad movie. Mm-hmm. So there's that, but I can definitely get like where it can be confusing.
Because there are parts where you're like, oh look, they're doing something different with rom-com tropes, and it's like, this is a really good argument. Like he trying to do something here, but then it'll cut away to like something funny or something dunking on it, and I'm like, okay, maybe he don't think it's that. I don't know. That's probably like a 3% of all people who watch this video might have that issue.
Yeah.
Very not a big thing.
I get it. It's a scripting thing where it's like I still try to make my scripts better because there's always something that I feel like could have been just worded a little bit differently or touched on more or whatever. And this video had a lot to do because the main thing was I did want to dunk on the movie. But I had that through line, and it could have been better for sure.
That was it for me. The only 2 other things I wrote, which I don't have like real points about, was just I like the Netflix shot where it's like a TV and there's Netflix scrolling in the background. It was nice. And I also wrote chicken nugget shot based.
Dude, I'm so happy with that shot.
So there's that. I wrote that. I don't have points with these, but I wrote them down.
Yeah. I think the chicken nugget shot is the funniest thing I've ever done on camera.
Is it?
Just me pretending to get fucking hit in the face with a bag of frozen chicken nuggets. It's so like painfully cartoonish.
Yeah. It's great.
And I find it really funny.
It's really good.
Yeah. But I don't have anything else to say about it. I think that this is one of my better yins in terms of editing and things that I do. One of the only ones that kind of rival it is that Adam Sandler video, but that shit was like 30 minutes and we weren't gonna watch this episode.
We wanted like a typical example from me and Zach. So
exactly.
Didn't make sense to include the crossover stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. If there was I'll just ask you this question. You can ask me it when we get to the end of mine. But like, what's one thing you really liked in this video, and what's one thing you wish could have been improved?
I think the comedy is pretty on the point. Like I think a lot of the gags are really solid. And when I think about rewatching yins or videos in general, the thing that usually gets me to rewatch it is like, was this really funny? I think this is a pretty rewatchable video.
I agree.
In terms of like things I wish were better, like it really comes down to that ADR at the end. Like that's the big thing.
That's the biggest.
I wished I had done that better. Yeah. Cause right now it's just bad. And, I have the excuse that I'm a YouTuber under 1,000 subs, but like I probably could have done that better. So
fair enough.
Yeah, no.
Still, really great video. Enjoyed watching it again. Even though I had already seen it. It was fun to rewatch it. Not only to write notes down and shit and talk about it on the podcast, but just in general. It's a video that's held up remarkably well.
Thanks, bro.
Well, one video down. One more to go.
I do want to mention that in my document about this, it says from my notes, it says Zach's perfect video. Mm-hmm. What does it say for you and your document?
Mine is a little bit different. It's the same point basically, but it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. It says Zach's dumbass video in italics. Okay,
that's interesting because On mine, I have Aden's dumbass video. So that's wild.
I see. You know, one could argue that this is a biased, video in general because we're talking about our own shit. But now I feel like we've revealed an additional layer of bias, that makes our criticisms null and void. So I'm afraid the whole episode's canceled.
We secretly hate each other's content.
Yeah. Awful. Awful shit. I just try to say nice things for the podcast. But after the recording, oh boy. I got every video disliked.
Can you imagine, bro?
Yeah.
We watch each other's content so fucking much and call with each other. Like, if I disliked your shit, I would just be like, nah, I don't want to watch it together. I'm good.
I'm good. No, thank you. Be sad.
There's only so much time on this earth. Yeah. Well,
make a better video.
I know that make videos, and I don't watch their content for a reason. So.
It's good that we like each other's shit. It's good that we like Jay's shit. It's good that we like Parker's shit. It's good the homies like the homies shit, regardless of being homies.
I agree.
It's a nice balance to have.
It is. Anyways, let's talk about Aden's dumbass video.
Yeah, my piece of trash. Echo the Dolphin, Golden Axe 3, and Rise Star 30 for 30 is the third 30 for 30 toward the end. There's this one, then there's the Sonic one, and then there's the finale. So we're pretty late in the 30 for 30 cycle, near the end of the series. So I only have a couple of games left to cover, which is important for this context because 30 for 30 was a show that changed drastically from the beginning toward the end, where initially it was mostly on camera Aden talking a lot about the history and making a couple of jokes and only showing a little bit of gameplay toward, as the series evolved near the end, mostly voiceover and gameplay Aden, not a lot of history, and mostly just funny game review type shit. It sort of changed as the series went on. And I liked the later version of 30 for 30 that we ended up getting in this video, but just know, if you watch this video, it's not going to be exactly like every other 30 for 30. Each video is different from each other, but this was the first season of a new show, of a new concept, and so... toward the end, it definitely changed a little bit. But the basic premise is this is the lightning round. So I cover 3 games in one video. Usually in 30 for 30, I only cover 1. But to make my life easier and not have to do 30 specific videos, there were 2 lightning rounds where I mashed up a bunch of games that I didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on. This is the second lightning round. I did one initially near the start of the show. But now we have this one where I'm covering 3 games, and also, because it's late December, there's a bit of a Christmas theme to it. And yeah, that's the video. It's the video pretty much. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say right off the bat that, like, when you're talking about a piece of media, it can be difficult to figure out, like, what do you want the big point to be? Like, am I going to talk about the history? Am I going to talk about, like, am I going to really review this piece of media, or am I going to try to make it really entertaining and funny? And it's really hard to find a balance. I find with
100%.
Yin as well, like, because each video could be completely different depending on how important that piece of media is and how much I care about it, right?
Which brings up another major difference between you and me is you script most every Yin, and mine is not scripted at all.
Yeah.
So I'll have a couple of notes, maybe some bullet points. I'll re-record the voiceover part a ton of different times until I get the right take. But there is no script. So what you said about, like, finding a message and a point, unless I have it written down somewhere that I can refer back to, a lot of the time that message is found in the edit because I have hours of footage and I'm like, all right, let's try to condense this down and sort of lean it toward a specific direction. Which in this case is just really the story of a bad Genesis game, an underrated Genesis game, and a great Genesis game. So we, like, go through the level of quality and sort of talk about the backgrounds of each game and my personal experiences with it. Not exactly a huge narrative or a mind-blowing narrative or anything, but they're ordered in that way for that specific reason.
Definitely. I am curious because we've talked about the scripting thing before on the podcast, but it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you've dabbled with scripting a little bit.
I have.
Do you find it easier to just record and see what comes up and then save it in the edit, or do you feel like it would be easier to have the script written beforehand?
I've done both with 30 for 30. So the Gunstar Heroes episode and Sonic 2, that entire game review portion is all written out. And so I have the script of that. The problem with me comes in the fact that I am not confident in my writing because it's not a skill that I've honed. I know what I like to talk about. I know my points, but for me, it is easier to just say them into a microphone and like filter it out from there than it is to sit in front of a computer and try to type it out. To me, when I try doing that and try writing thoughts out, I'm way too focused on like the grammar and the presentation of it. And then I speak it and it doesn't sound right because it doesn't have my natural flow and I'm trying to like fit into a certain style. It takes a lot longer for me to write some script for a Gunstar Heroes video or a Sonic 2 when I already kind of know my thoughts already, but I can just record it, edit it out, and be on my merry way. Granted, there are more flubs that way that just have to be left in. And so the scripted version's typically tighter, and I like a lot of my critiques and criticism. But in terms of like humor and flow stuff, I prefer not having to script it. But still, like, I experiment with it and try to do a little bit more in every video because I do see the benefits of it. This video was not scripted though. So
yeah. See, I thought this one was scripted, so that's wild.
Nope.
That's cool.
This one was not. But you'll find that throughout this video when you're watching it, if Aden will say one thing and then slightly refute it or slightly say something different. And that's simply just a matter of I'm talking for like 30 minutes on end. And sometimes my word choice is not ideal when I'm saying things on the spot, you know? So in the Golden Axe 3 part, I'm like, this game was released on Sega Channel, which was this downloadable service and yada, yada, yada. But then in like a line or two later, I'm like, this must mean one of two things. Golden Axe is underrated or it's a bad game that Sega didn't release in the West. And that's not what Sega Channel is. Sega Channel was available in the West and available in the East. I should have said was not made an actual release, like a physical release, but I just say in the West, implying that it was somehow exclusive to that region. It's not. But that's a case of weird word choice. Another instance where it happens is I'm talking about how Golden Axe 3 has multiple paths. And so you can beat a stage and then go on different areas. My dumbass in the actual video instead says Golden Axe 3 has multiple stages. Wow, really? A beat 'em up game has multiple stages? That's insane. And I eventually get around to explaining it, like in the multiple points, so you get what I mean. But shit like that is like where having a script would have really helped get the right word choice there for the right context. But instead I'm rambling on end and shit like that slips through the cracks and there's a little bit of misinfo on my part there.
No, I get it. Cool. So. Yeah, I know I have to script shit, or I feel like I like don't know what I'm talking about. Or I'll forget things. Like I feel like there are like major important points I want to make, and if I record it without the script, like it'll just never be made. I'll just never mention it. But there definitely is an advantage to both. I think you get a lot more natural humor in yours, and sometimes some of my jokes can come across forced.
Yeah.
But
it all depends on how you filter
taken
it,
from,
you know.
Exactly. Yeah. We've both taken from each other on that aspect too, where there's a lot of like natural humor stuff that comes out when I'm recording, and so I put it in there.
Yep.
And then you started to script a little bit too, which is cool.
I see the value in both approaches. I wouldn't recommend
I do too.
One person do only one or not the other. Like find what's comfortable for you and make that work for you.
100%.
So I want to ask, what's the first thing on your notes there? What's the first thing you wrote down?
So the first thing I have is that you do a really great job of setting up the atmosphere.
Yeah, boy.
Only for it to just be a Merry Christmas, you fucks joke.
Yeah.
And I love it. I remember seeing it the first time, and I saw it now, and I'm like, this is fantastic.
I'm really big on music and mood. And so for a lot of videos, if I'm not just going to do a 3-second joke or whatever, like a lot of intros are, being able to kind of get you involved in that this is a slower paced video, this is what the mood's going to be, it's the holiday season, that type of shit. And it wasn't even intentional. It was just after I got done filming the on-camera stuff by that Christmas tree, I'm like, well, I have my DSLR out. Why not film the tree itself? And then taking all of that and match cutting it to a track off Epidemic Sound that sounded remotely Christmassy. And you just get all those shots together, and I edit it together. And I really like that. My favorite of those shots is when I'm zooming in on me as a kid with my my stupid like face, and I'm like showing my teeth and shit. And the fucking Santa at the end. I think he's creepy. I don't like him a whole lot. But
he a little wacky.
Sus. A little sus. But I've done that before too, on the Charlie Brown Christmas video where I show that Christmas like train, that little train that sits underneath the tree. I love doing shit like that. I'm a big fan of atmospheric shit in the media that I watch, and so anytime I can incorporate it into a video, I love doing it.
Well, again, it's like the major difference between mine and your content, and I think why you do it so well is that you let people know, like, right off the bat, like, this is going to be a little bit of a slower paced video, but there's an atmosphere to it. That's why, like, I'm setting that up. I think it can be frustrating when you're watching like a video from some YouTuber that you don't know, and it starts off really fast paced, and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be a banger. And then halfway through, the dude's just talking about a game, and you're like, bro, get to the fucking point, man. Yeah. I again, like, you set it off pretty nicely. Like, this is the atmosphere we're going for, and it maintains that atmosphere throughout the whole video.
I think a lot of people get the idea that like you can't do slower paced videos on YouTube. And that's not true at all. The problem comes in with intention and execution, right? You can intend for a video to be slower, but that still means you have to put the work in to make that vibe worth it, I feel like when a lot of people will be like, I made a slower video, and you just talked in front of the camera for 30 minutes, your intention didn't show, you didn't execute it well enough to make that worth it. So whether you're doing something fast-paced or slower, it still has to be a good video, and you still have to put the time in editing to craft that. The longest I spent editing this video was that Christmas montage at the end and the one toward the end that we'll talk about. That's it. It wasn't the reviews. It wasn't the gameplay. It was those small little moments that's only going to be like a minute long, but I wanted them to be really good because they were important to the video.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have that visual interest still there.
Yeah.
And your points have got to be like
good.
On point. They got to be good points, right? Yeah. Or else you're just wasting time. And I don't feel like my time was wasted watching this video. So that's a good thing.
There's some early Blue Couch Productions videos where there's like one thing on screen and I just talk for a long time. Yeah, I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've done it too.
Tried to improve it over the years. The second I wrote down epic Christmas montage for the first thing. But then the second thing I wrote down was beer joke based as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the idea that in order for you to talk about Echo the Dolphin,
a game for 3-year-olds,
you gotta have, you gotta have a Bud Light in hand.
Yeah,
not a hard liquor, not a whole bottle of wine like some YouTubers do. No, just a singular Bud Light. Mm-hmm. It's just really funny to me.
And it never gets opened. I never drink out of it.
No,
it's a thing where like, oh, hold on, I'll be right back. That slow music plays. I go to the fridge. I get a shot of inside the fridge. I actually had to refilm the shot of me grabbing it because I was using the wrong arm and it didn't make sense from like the perspective of it.
And
so I got it, walked back, and I was like, all right, let's continue or whatever. And I wanted to do like little jokes for all the intros to the game, but I only kind of do that one for Echo the Dolphin just because I know that opening so well. That was personal to me. So that one was very easy to like come up with a little short gag for. And fun with it.
That intro is so bad. That game, it's just like, what the hell is happening?
Oh, so fuck.
It's a good joke.
Because I've seen like other game reviewers they'd be like, "Whoa, were they high when they made this? What the fuck?" So
yeah,
it's a common joke. I'm aware.
For sure.
But I put my own spin on it.
I like it. I did have like one little thing I didn't like at the beginning. And it's got nothing to do with like the comedy or the shots or anything, but like sometimes you use like these transitions that nobody uses.
Yeah.
And it's like interesting to me because I just wonder like why, like what's your thought process on that? Like, you got the Santa Claus zoom in. You've got like this.
There's like a circle,
an iris swipe or something.
Yeah, with the white around it. Yeah.
Curious about that.
So this probably started maybe around the Halloween video when I had wasn't on camera much for any of it. And so I was just showing images, right? And like any YouTuber who's trying to improve his craft, I was like, oh, this is just boring to look at naturally. But I didn't know like proper keyframing or proper animating because I was using Sony Vegas at the time. So I used what I had, and I'm like, okay, well, if the images themselves are going to be boring, I'll put some transitions on there and try to spice it up. Yeah. And in a lot of those early videos, you can definitely tell, like, Aden went ham and picked every little one.
Yeah.
And threw it on there. But from there, I eventually kind of, like, shortened it down to my 3 favorites, which is the push in, push out, that type of shit. It looks natural, looks easy, not hard. The iris, I use that a lot for intros. I don't know why I picked it for that Santa shot. I guess I just wanted something different to happen on screen. But I do like the iris a lot. And then the linear wipe. That's been my new favorite as of recently. And a lot of the time what it is I'll use it when I'm like transitioning to a completely different point. So if I'm talking on screen and I'm doing some cuts, but then I kind of transition into something else, the linear wipe gives me enough time, I think, for the audience to be like, all right, he's moving on to something different. That being said,
I agree with that.
I did write down weird linear wipe on the Echo gameplay where I'm moving up and the wipe happens, but it's like black and shit, and it doesn't like really make any sense, so it looks like the game glitched out or I did something wrong. That was a bad one. That was a really bad one. But I've been happy with some of the ones that I've used, especially on the Sonic videos. Because with Sonic, it's so hard to cut. He's running fast all the time, so you can't just cut, and then he'll be somewhere completely different. So I like when he's going up a loop, and then a linear wipe, and then he's running a little bit further down the screen. That shit's fun. I can occasionally miss, and I know which linear wipe you're referring to on that Echo part. That was bad. But I don't know.
That was another one that I was going to mention, but
I don't know. There's it's just something I've always done, and I've narrowed it down a little bit to some of the less obnoxious ones. I've used star wipes before in some Blue Couch Productions videos.
Yeah.
And thankfully I have not used them since. But it's just working with what you have, not knowing how to keyframe shit for a long time. It's like, all right, transitions it is. That's my only animation software here.
Yeah, I there's like 2 or 3 transitions that I use. And it's usually like cross dissolves. There's this one called the whip, not the nene, the whip. Kill me. It used to have to be this thing you had to manually do, and you've probably seen it before, but it's when something like goes really fast on the screen and it's got like this blur effect to it. And then you can do the same thing to get it off the screen. It used to be like a manual thing where you'd have to like keyframe it onto the screen, add this thing called a directional blur, which would blur it and turn it 90 degrees and then like make sure it goes there fast enough. But Adobe Premiere recently, like 2 months ago, added the whip transition.
That's cool.
And there it is. It's so helpful.
Saves so much time.
It's so helpful. Because I was doing that on as early as like the January, February Pat Fun videos, just manually. Now I can just throw that bitch on there. So you'll probably see more of it in my own videos because now it's not a pain in the ass to do.
Heck yeah. I love when a software like that gets easier and they add things that are actually useful and not just dumb little whatever waste of time.
It's great.
Nonsense. That's why I've been enjoying DaVinci Resolve.
Hell yeah.
A lot. And I'm still learning it. Still having a fun time doing that. The next thing I wrote down, and I'm sure you were gonna complain about it, so I'm getting ready for the punch. But I wrote, some games do not work for the intro. Which is when I'm like, all right, let's talk about Echo the Dolphin, and I cut and show the game's intro.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does. I think in this video in particular, the Golden Axe 3 one's like visually interesting enough. You get a little bit of the music. It's nice, whatever. But what really got me to notice it was that Echo the Dolphin one is miserable. And I'm like, oh,
it's very long.
God, like this should have been cut down. And in fact, the Rystar one did get cut. When he flashes, it flashes to white. You get like another like 30 seconds or some shit. But what I did is I took that white point and then just showed the last 10 seconds of the intro. And you don't even know. You don't even know the difference. Really could have used something like that for the Echo intro. But man, that is such a game-to-game thing. Sonic games, Sega logo, Sonic shows up, you're done in 10 seconds. Others, they got to show a whole narrative story. They got to show all the characters doing cool shit. And then we eventually cut to the title screen, but the music's already faded out. Some have music, some don't. It was a unique challenge and almost a pain in the ass to get them in there. But part of the reason I did it was just because, like, you don't get to hear a lot of these games in their natural like habitat. I don't just show random gameplay clips. So the process behind it is like, if you're watching this and you have no idea what Echo the Dolphin is or Rystar or Golden Axe 3, sometimes those intros do enough to like explain to you, the viewer, oh, it's this kind of game, or oh, it's that kind of game. They give you a little bit of an idea. So that's why I do them, but some games like the Echo one do not work for having an intro like that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I did want to kind of, talking about transitions, I wanted to talk about the actual like game-to-game transitions that you do here. And I remember the first time I was watching some of your 30 for 30s, I was like, the game intros are interesting, but like you said, with like the Echo the Dolphin specifically, that one goes on for too long. However, I think it is a great idea. I think that it helps. It helps the video breathe. Like it's solid pacing usually, because you're going from one game to the next. It's a nice little like breather from you talking to hear, and like you said, like I do like seeing what the game is about, because there's a lot of gaming videos that, unless you're watching a Let's Play, you're not going to get a lot of the identity of the game there. You're mainly just getting a dude's thoughts. So it is cool what you do with 30 for 30 is you really do let us know like what this game is about and how it feels. I think in terms of making that something better, the thing I would have done differently is the Echo the Dolphin one. Like after the Sega logo, I would just skip to like screen. Half of that, right? Or skip to when the dolphin comes on screen first, instead of like the 10 seconds of like ocean footage.
Yep.
There's probably, it would take a little bit longer time, but for some of these intros, you could probably edit it down and the audience couldn't tell whether it was edited down or not.
Oh yeah. If they're getting upwards of a minute, I'll try to like trim some of that shit out. I did not for the Echo on it, and it shows.
Yeah. I mean, even like, if I was doing this, I'd trim it down to like 5 to 10 seconds, but you're going for a different vibe. So it'd be hard for me to like tell you to do that, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, it's a great thing that you do. I still like it a lot.
I like
that Golden Axe intro is pretty good. So it's like cool to see that.
The game over ones are usually a lot easier, because what I'll do is when I'm making my final point, I'll cut to 30 seconds before the game over. And then when I'm done talking, I'll look at that. The game's ended, right? You get to hear the game over theme, and then I'm moving on. So those are a little bit easier to kind of like function and pace, and they're also quicker, so they work a lot better. But intros are a bit harder for sure.
It is funny though, because on that Rystar game over, I was telling you, like, we see you mess up on this section like twice, and then the game over comes out. But like that's typically how it is when you game over in a game. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and then you foul. So
I know a lot of to that point, a lot of video essay and game channels like will play the game, sure, and they'll get their thoughts, but then the actual footage they use is from somewhere else on YouTube, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. Yeah. I'm a big fan of showing, like, my process, right? If I'm showing you footage of Golden Axe 3, that is me playing Golden Axe 3. That's not someone else. Occasionally, if there's, like, an unlockable character, like there's a kangaroo you can get in the Streets of Rage game, I'll show footage of the kangaroo, like, from someone's YouTube channel and, like, mention who it came from. But I'm a big fan of, like, look, I'm recording this. I'm getting my use out of it. You're gonna see how I died. You're gonna see how I fucked up. You're gonna see me playing the game, and all that sort of shit. I'm surprised nobody's commented on 30 for 30 of like, wow, gameplay on this is ass. Who fucking who is this? But nobody's bitched about it yet, so I'm okay, I guess.
We've talked about it off camera before. I think that's like another major difference between me and you when it comes to games. But it is something that I'm starting to do where I'm like recording my own footage. It can be hard if it's like a 60-hour game.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't have recorded my entire experience with Ghost of Tsushima. But like I want to do more of that. And I've got footage of games that I plan on talking about already in the hard drive now. So I agree with that. Like I think that's something you should do if you're talking about games.
Only because it is an interactive medium.
It's your experience.
Yeah. Like
yeah.
You can't do that with movies. You just download the movie and edit the movie. You can download the song and edit the song. True. Games, like that's a little bit more interesting. So I like doing that.
Yeah. If I'm talking about like multiple games in a video, usually I'm going to YouTube and I'm looking up the footage there. But that is something that I want to get better about, showing my experience with it rather than downloading footage.
Nice. What you got?
Yeah. So the major thing that I have left that I'm curious about is towards the end of this video, you finish talking about these 3 games. You got a little game over sequence from Rystar, and then just out of the blue, there's like this really neat Rystar footage with like a CTR scan like overlay, and it's kind of zoomed in and angled a little bit. And you got it playing for a good like 30 seconds, I think.
Yes.
And I'm curious what the thought process on that is, because it's really cool, but you never do it again. So I'm wondering.
Never in 30 for 30 do I ever do it again. What is this? So in this case, I didn't intentionally, right? It was just going to be the game over to me talking again. But I got my new TV for my birthday, this 4K TV, and I was like, I wonder if I could like film something off of this. So I went to YouTube and searched up 4K Rystar gameplay or whatever. Yeah. And it's like a big 50-inch TV. And then I just filmed it like off the DSLR, like off the camera. So all the scan lines and shit.
Even edited like that. This is just like your actual TV.
This is my actual TV. Yep.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That's why the angles are different, because I'm filming it from different spots. And then putting it together. Obviously, it's a bit noisy in some parts, and you can see where I'm trying to like focus in and focus out. But I just had that footage after like experimenting around with it. And just like the Christmas montage, I found a track that I really liked, sandwiched it right in between those 2 bits, edited it together, and then once the music ran out, have the audio from the next cut coming up, and then cut to the visual by having it fade out so it feels more natural. But that's just another thing, is like, is this an important part of the video? No, but does it create like a mood and atmosphere and something to like think about after the fact? Sure. You know, that's a fun little calling card. It's a fun little like moment in the video where you can just kind of like breathe and enjoy the game, because we are at the end, right?
Yeah.
So there's not much I'm having left to say. In fact, a lot of the ends of my videos, it's just like, all right, it's over. That's it. Hope you enjoyed watching it. In the last minute's kind of boring. This is a good example, I think, of like using that ending time for something cool and creative and fun to kind of like end the video out on.
It's cool.
Yep.
I really like it. I almost imagine like you could use this for the star, when you do the ranking for the stars or something like that. Future videos, or I'd love to see more of that if possible. But if this is just a one video thing, I could get that too.
It's fun to do. I like doing it.
Yeah.
Big on that music, mood, and atmosphere, man. I love that shit and
Yeah.
a lot of the content I watch. So I threw it in twice in one video.
Hell yeah.
The only other things I wrote here is just two more. I like the specific cuts I made on gameplay. Specifically when I'm talking about cryptic echo puzzles, and I show like me pushing the seashell over to the rock and like talking to the glyph and shit. Really helped for that game because it is cryptic and weird.
Yeah, that is really weird.
As well as like the Rystar stuff with the hands of like, I didn't just cut rapid fire to things. I showed the intro stage, which uses your hands in a lot of different ways. And then when I'm talking about swinging on the pole, that's when I cut. So I liked a lot of the Rystar editing of gameplay shit. Specifically the part where I'm like talking about the character and it's the end screen and then like a little blur. It might have been a directional blur, I don't know. And then push up on a Rystar image to talk about the character and then cut to another bit of gameplay there. I've done that before on Gunstar Heroes, talking about the characters there, or the Sonic videos when I mention a new character type of shit.
Yeah.
I like those. I like those moments as well. And then the other thing I mentioned, the last thing is, I mentioned before, you don't get to really like hear a lot of the games except for the intro and outro. I kind of wish I had showed off a little bit of some of these soundtracks more, because I noticed toward the end when I'm talking about the Rystar soundtrack of like, well, they've only heard one song and it was the intro. It would have been cool to hear some of the variations of it. But I've never cut away from it, you know? I never did. So I kind of wish I had shown off that a little bit more.
It's always frustrating with that particularly because I remember your F-Zero review back in the day. You have an entire like minute and a half section where where you just show soundtrack bits.
Yep.
And footage. It's on one hand, right? Like on one hand, I like that because if I've never played the game, I get to hear like some of the best music. On the other hand, watching the video, it can like mess up the pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's tough to figure out like kind of the perfect middle ground there. And then also like I know with Yin, since season 2, I've just used like almost like lo-fi hip hop beats in the background.
Right.
To kind of create my own atmosphere or jazz or something like that. Used to, I'd like incorporate the soundtrack of the games or the movie. A lot of times that can get copyrighted, which can mess up the video. But then, like, you know, depending on the game, like I'd still like to use certain soundtrack elements from it because, like, you're trying to present it in its best light, right?
Yep.
I don't know what the answer there is, but you know.
In the top 10 Sinnoh Pokemon video, that entire soundtrack is just Pokemon music. Just to, like, from Diamond and Pearl. So you get more of a Gen 4 vibe. I'm even thinking about doing it with the Zelda video because it is, like, a key part, but I'm not going to spend 15 minutes talking about every good Zelda soundtrack. I'm covering the entire series here. So that might be a video that benefits having music. But those are big topics, right? 10 Pokemon from 3 games, or, like, there's 100 of them, or a whole Zelda franchise, sure. For this, stopping the entire video just for a little bit of Rystar music might not have been worth it.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I'm talking about this thing, I want it to be represented in the video, right? Like, why am I speaking this? Here's why. Here why. But no, I agree. Yeah. Sometimes they can be very poorly done, and I have very poorly done some of them. I stopped that Star Fox Zero video just so you could hear the voice acting. You know? Just random lines of dialogue from Star Wolf and Company, which I thought was important. Probably wasn't important.
Yeah. It's also like if you want every video to have the same feel, some games have really bad sound design and soundtracks.
Yep.
And you know, like I did a video about Garfield games at the beginning of Yin, and one of those games had an amazingly, like, surprisingly banging soundtrack. The rest of them did not. And so you just hear bad Garfield game music throughout most of the video. That's frustrating.
I get it.
Yeah.
Epic. Well, that's all I have.
Yeah, I don't have anything else either. I will say, to kind of simmer down the beef. I'm now changing my document to Aden's perfect video.
Wow. What a glow up.
Yeah.
I'll change yours from Zach's dumbass video to Zach's slightly mediocre video.
I'm so happy to hear that.
As a sign of good faith to
awesome
stopping this beef right here.
Yeah.
You bumped it up.
Yeah.
Bumped it up a little bit.
Hey, man, a 7 out of 10 is better than a 3 out of 10.
There you go. For sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
But no, I like doing this. I feel like I got more out of it than I thought I would. Because, like I said before we recorded this, I was like, I don't know how to talk about editing that much. But no, I feel like we got through this pretty good. So,
yeah. Mention some things we don't usually get to mention on the podcast about some of the behind-the-scenes shit.
Hell yeah. Hopefully the audience got something out of it. I'd be curious to hear what your takeaways are. Mm-hmm. What kind of editing things do you like? Because I'm always trying to learn, always watching other videos and trying to politely steal their techniques.
Hell yeah! If you have the time and you want to go above and beyond, watch both of these videos and then like come back to this comment section and like if we didn't mention a specific thing, like throw it in because I'd be down to for any critiques or compliments other way. So if you have the time to watch both these videos, that'd be really cool. I'd love to read those comments of like what you thought of these two specifically. Same.
I'll have both of the YouTube videos in the description or the show notes.
They're both under 20 minutes, so they shouldn't take that much time.
Yeah, I decided not to bring out my 45-minute best of 2019 video.
Probably for the best. Probably. Oh shit, I forgot the because I asked you like what was the one good thing and the one like kind of thing.
That's right. What's yours for your video?
So for the good, like I didn't know it at first, but as we talked about it became kind of clear. Those music montages, man, they're not only so fun to do, but give like a life and an air and an atmosphere to a video that I enjoy so much that I watch from other people. And when I rewatched this video, it immediately like put me back in that mood again. And I was just like, oh, this is so relaxing. This is so nice. I love what I've been able to do with like music and mood shit, using the slower pace to like my advantage to create something like interesting and unique.
I agree.
In terms of the bad thing,
shit slaps.
Aside from that bad linear wipe on the fucking Echo gameplay that really should not have been there, I think the intro shit is something to keep in mind, especially as I go more into if I do a season 2 of 30 for 30, being a little bit more conscious about how long these intros are and trying to see if I can get them to be shorter. Not short enough to where like they're barely even a thing. I wouldn't want them to be 5 seconds or anything. But if I could get more of them in the 10 to 30 second range, that's not too bad. And I don't need them being a minute and 45 seconds and shit. That's something to improve on.
Yeah, I agree with those. I think those are some good points.
Yep.
This is random. I think it could be interesting if at some point both you and I pick some of our favorite YouTubers and maybe stuff that each other doesn't watch and kind of share some banging videos from them, because I'd be interested to see like what's some of the kind of more vibey atmospheric content that you watch a lot of the time. I'd be interested to see where those inspirations come from.
Oh yeah, that could be fun.
That could be cool.
It could be really fun.
So yeah, I don't know like when, or I'm not promising the audience anything, but I think that could be cool.
Heck yeah.
To talk about, or at least just to, experience.
Real quick, before we go, what are like some just key editing like takeaways that like most people, whether they're going for a fast style video or a slower style video, or like some key things that people at home can use to improve their videos?
Yeah. So I think like number one is visual interest.
That's the big one for me.
It's a video, right? Like, if you're really good at scripting and you're really good at talking, but you're not good about showing what needs to be shown along with it, might as well just do a podcast, right? Or a live stream or something like that. I think what makes some of the best YouTube videos the best is that there's shit coming up on the screen, going off the screen, and it's relevant to what you're talking about.
If your eyes start to get like bored and you're not like paying attention to what's going on and you're just kind of like listening to something in the background, that's when like visual interest has failed you, right?
Yeah.
So on a practical level, like, don't have a shot that goes on for a minute where nothing changes. You know, change it up a little bit. Either cut to on camera, cut back to the gameplay, show a different part of gameplay, show a different part of the movie, throw an image up on screen. We talked about that a lot. Some rapid cuts to music are a good idea. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Even zoom ins and transitions can help key into visual interest. But the idea is that it shouldn't be stale. I shouldn't be looking at one thing and then a cut, and then one thing for a long time and then another cut. You have a lot of opportunities with editing, and doing nothing is a pretty boring way to make a video. Get creative.
Yeah, and it could take like a really good video, or it could take like a mediocre video and make it a great video. That's how important that stuff is.
Yep.
The best examples I can think of are like the completionist and the game theorists.
Yep.
And like I don't be watching game theory anymore, but you know, as far as like visual stuff you can see, like he does a great job, or his editors do a great job at showing stuff on the screen a lot.
I agree.
The other main thing is like it's a video audio experience, so audio is also super important. It's the other key there.
Having good audio that you can hear and like is palpable and not
good audio
changing rapidly between shots.
Yeah, don't do ADR.
Don't do ADR.
You know, if you can create some kind of sound design using sound effects, using music appropriately, that kind of thing can help liven up a video as well.
I'd say the last thing for me is pay attention a lot to your cuts, you know? We talked about before about visual interest and shit, but keep in mind also that if you can avoid just the typical hard cut from one thing to another and try something different, that can really help with the pacing and the flow of a video, which is often the hardest part of the process for me, is having a video flow from one point to another, one topic to another. How do you do that? Well, you record a lot of dialogue or write a script, but you use your cuts smartly. Cut into the audio before the visual, or the visual before the audio. That type of shit. J&L cuts, cross dissolves in between each cut so the audio naturally flows. Maybe even keyframing some shit where if the next scene's a little louder, you can turn that down a little bit and bump it back up naturally. Anything you can do to help improve the flow of a video, which doesn't always necessarily have to be fast. Zach uses it with a lot of fast cuts and a lot of comedic moments. I am more focused on having some slower, breathable moments, using music, using montages, key little areas to breathe, or like Zach does, to tell a joke or to do something funny or to build up to an exciting result. Cuts are really like the bread and butter of YouTube video editing, and knowing them before all else will help you a ton make videos that flow and feel natural.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's do what feels natural for you, right? Like expand on that. A lot of my editing style and a lot of Aden's editing style has came from watching a lot of YouTube, watching a lot of movies and TV shows, and then internalizing that into what feels right for us.
Yep.
I could not do the videos I did now 10 years ago because I didn't have the experience to do it technically, but also it took a while to like build up what I would consider my style, right?
That's
Those
important.
things evolve over time. So, yeah.
Find your style. Stay inspired.
Good points.
Watch a lot
Now,
of
why
YouTube,
the hell?
Watch some films.
Why the hell is Parker calling me right now?
Oh.
I'm gonna put him on speakerphone. Hold up. Yes, sir. Yo, what's poppin'?
I'm bored as hell, and I want to maybe watch a movie or do something, but nobody's responding but this bitch Candace.
Yeah, I'm recording the YouTube podcast, so say hi.
Oh shit! What's good, YouTube podcast? Wait, but how are you doing that without Aden? I thought he was watching.
I'm right here, bro. I'm vibing.
He's right here in the call with me, so I don't know about no Indiana Jones shit.
Wow, so Jay just fucking lied to me?
I guess. Might have to take that up with him. But I'm gonna say goodbye so I can go finish recording this podcast.
Yeah, he's trying to do something faster than that.
Alright, peace.
Yeah, man.
Well, that was fun.
What a trip.
It was a fun little thing. Was he about to do a Candace joke on you?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna let him.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah. Yeah, mind you, this dude called me on Discord while we were recording, and then he sent me like 4 messages, and then he texted me. I ignored it because I'm
recording
trying to be a professional podcaster.
Yeah.
And then he calls me. Come on, bro. Anyways.
Very unprofessional.
Yeah. Speaking of editing.
Yeah. Man, this shit gotta get cut down. Good Lord.
Yeah. Damn, bro. Anyways, yeah. I don't have anything else to say. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you got some good takeaways here.
I've
been Zach.
Oh shit.
And thank you for listening to this episode of another YouTube podcast.
Yo, that was a jinx. You owe me a soda.
Yeah. I am gonna have to edit that out. Make it sound like we said it in the proper time.